outside?
Yeah, just in
This kind of mediation. You might like very, very pale out. Right, ladies and gentlemen, what I should have said, of course, is not only is all this, sorry, forgive me, more people coming in, but I should have said not only is all this imaginative and fun, but the process might just be a little bit more humorous than it would otherwise be in the real world. However, we'll try and demonstrate how a process would run as far as is compatible with glasses of wine this time of the evening and the whole message to make it a worthwhile training exercise, but at the same time, interesting and so on and so forth. So I'm going to greet my participants now. If I could invite Tim, Jeremy, Michael to come and have a seat, that would be great. You should be aware as well that the room has been set out so you can see everything in expressions. Ordinarily, people would be round the table in a more conventional format. So, John, you can have a seat? Yes. My dear chap. And Tim, you can have a seat? You there? John. But John's involved. And Michael, you can have a seat? Thank you very much. Please come in. Right, now. I was going to meet you outside, but John, do have a seat. You told me. How are you? Very nice to see you. You are? I'm in charge of the Ministry of Justice. Your name, sir?
Ron Hood.
Ron Hood. I'm glad you remembered it, Ron. May I call you Ron? May I call you Ron or later?
Or later on.
Ronnie would be good. Ronnie, that's good. How do you do? John's being your mediator.
Marigold Plenty.
Marigold Plenty, and you're from?
I am from FNCO Official.
Oh, the Foreign Commonwealth Office. I recognise it well. I'm glad you do as well.
Consuela Fish.
Consuela, how very nice to meet you.
Thank you. I noticed you didn't greet the cold, wet English fish in the same way as the hot-blooded.
Thank you. Overacting committed.
And
you're from
Venezuelan Embassy Minister.
The Minister of the Venezuelan Embassy. How do you do? And you are?
Good day, Jeremy Strange.
Jeremy, you're from where in England?
Yes, Southampton.
Please come and have a chat. Let's see it. Consuela, Jeremy, welcome. Can I just first go around the room and make sure I've got all your names right and confirm what you'd like to be called? Jeremy, is it all right to call you Jeremy?
It is.
Thank you very much. And may I call you Consuela?
You can call me Consuela.
Consuela, how do you do?
Connie, you can call me anything else you like.
Jonathan's my name. Ronnie, you said prefer?
Ronnie would be fine.
And Marigold, may I call you by first name? Thank you. Now, Jonathan, no, I'm in other jobs I do. I'm a barrister. I'm an arbitrator. I have a number of roles, but today I'm your mediator. And Consuela, I feel a lot more comfortable if you were just a little bit further away in a neutral position. Thank you. Today I'm your mediator, which means I'm not here to advise. You've all taken legal advice, as I understand it, from your respective legal teams. And I'm not here to give you a solution. I'm grateful for the papers you provide me with, and I'm confident that the solution will emerge from what you've put in those documents, which I have read in full and was interested to see. Now, you've signed the mediation agreement before coming today. Jeremy, that's correct. You've seen your signature. Yep. Consuela, Ronnie, and Marigold, you've all signed the documents concerned. So you'll know this process is confidential, which means that nothing that's said here today can be disclosed outside the room. And it's without prejudice. So any solutions you come up with which aren't ultimately adopted, you don't have to proceed with. We're all comfortable with that, are we? Ronnie, thank you. Consuela? And Jeremy. You're content with that. Confidential, without prejudice. We've got about 6 hours here today until the audience gets bored. And at that point, we can adjourn. And if there's no settlement, then nothing has happened today. Today is as if it hasn't existed. Whatever you say to me is a bit like talking to your priest or to a GP. I will not repeat it to anyone. If we have open sessions like this, you'll obviously discuss things across the table, and I'll play a part, perhaps asking questions. You might give me permission to be devil's advocate sometime. Would that be something you agree to? Mm-hmm. Ron?
Yes, yes.
Consuela?
Oh, of course.
Jeremy? Or there may be private sessions, either with groups or just one of you with me. And then, again, anything that's said in those private sessions remains absolutely discreet to me only, unless you authorise me to pass it across. Those are the ground rules. I'd like, in a moment, to find what you'd like to achieve from this process, and perhaps we'd each give each other 5 minutes of listening. Sometimes people tell me that having a rule that only one person speaks at once, using business language, is a strong rule in this. Is that a rule you'd like to adopt, Marigold?
That's fine. Yes.
Yeah, that's good. As well?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm grateful. That being the case, I've said my piece. Who would like to begin?
Well, maybe I can begin.
Well, let's ask the meeting if I may, because it's a consensual process, which is why we're
Yeah,
here.
that's fine.
Content?
Yes.
Content? Jeremy, you have the floor.
I want two things out of this meeting today. Firstly, I want an open declaration that I've got diplomatic status and I'm allowed to go to Venezuela unmolested. And secondly, as this is clearly a stitch up by the Anglo-American military-industrial complex cooked up in Davos, I want £100,000 damages for 10 years. Sorry, £100,000 a year for 10 years for the damage done to WikiLeaks and my career. It's not unreasonable. That's what I want. That's the answer to your question.
So what I'm hearing from you, Jeremy, and let me just get that right, is you're looking for a degree of security
Yes.
for the future, and you're looking for a degree of certainty.
Yes.
And if you can get that today, you'll be satisfied.
And compensation.
Don't forget the money.
The money.
And within that, a level of compensation which is fair. So you're looking for what's fair, essentially.
I'm looking for what's fair.
Okay.
Because I've been completely maligned.
Today's about defining that. Tell me a bit about you, if I may. You're
A Canadian broadcaster.
That's a Canadian accent.
Yeah, well, it was. It was Australian. Good Lord. But I lived in Australia for many years. and I've been lucky enough to adopt an Australian accent.
Do you have your equity card? I should send it back.
So, yes. So I have been a campaigning journalist for many years. I'm one of the most famous campaigning journalists in the world. And as part of this, I've been able to unlock a vast treasure trove of lies that the Anglo-American military-industrial complex has been selling around the world. And so I've been exposing that, and now they've all ganged up on me. It's not really fair.
So you're after fairness, and
Yes.
your background is one of seeking and
Exposing. I'm an exposer of
you're interested in
the
justice,
lies.
is what
I'm
mean.
interested in justice. I'm a flag carrier for justice. And just because I want justice, they've all ganged up on me. It's just not, it's not fair. So I want fairness.
Does that often happen, or just this once? Sorry. I'll let that one go.
Yes.
Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, I think
For
at
now?
this stage, I just want everyone to know that I've been completely stitched up. This business with Fox News bringing out the story against me is clearly a conspiracy organised by my enemies in the British Foreign Office here today and the American State Department, no doubt represented by their running dogs in the Foreign Office. And they're all ganging up on me just because I expose them. So you shouldn't believe a word Fox News. It's owned by the Murdoch Empire. They've had it in for me for years because I've exposed how they're all stooges of the Anglo-American complex as well.
So what I'm hearing as well is that truth is important to you.
Truth's vital. Everything I stand for is about truth and fairness and transparency.
And confidence in the process.
Confidence.
Thank you for beginning. Consuelo, what would you like to add?
Mr. Strange has been treated like a keeper.
A kipper.
Stitched up like a keeper.
Can you explain that metaphor so that I get it?
He is innocent.
See,
Totally innocent. Stitched up like a keeper. It's all a plot.
see, there's a
It's
doubt.
all a plot.
What would you like to achieve as a result of that?
Venezuelans we want democracy. We are known for democracy. WikiLeaks is wonderful. WikiLeaks, Mr. Strange, is a hero. So this is a counter-revolutionary plot.
It is.
It's a thick plot.
Thick plot.
A very thick plot.
Getting thicker.
We represent the free world.
Okay. So what I'm hearing from you is that the Venezuelan government supports Mr. Strange's approach, is comfortable with Mr. Strange coming to Venezuela. What do you want to achieve from this process
My
today?
people understand revolutionary heroes.
Euros.
Yes.
And what does your government want to achieve from today?
We want safe passage
Safe passage.
tonight
You want to be able to pass Mr. Strange
or tomorrow.
through a canal of safety.
Certainly by
Diplomatic.
Christmas.
Diplomatic.
Safe passage
Safe
to
passage.
Caracas, where he will be a hero.
Caracas being
Somewhere else.
the capital of Venezuela,
Yes, a long way away.
a considerable distance away. You'd like Mr. Strange, therefore, to have safe
Safe
passages away from
passage.
your embassy to your country.
Safe passage tonight.
So if you were comfortable with that, you would have achieved something worthwhile. Can I turn then?
Democracy.
You'd have achieved democracy.
My people are all about democracy.
Okay.
We welcome and relish heroes.
Heroes.
Quite explain.
So Jeremy Consuelo, grateful. Can I turn now to the UK government side? I don't know if you'd like to begin, whether it's yourself, Ronnie, or from Marigold's perspective, the Foreign and Commonwealth Office.
Sure. I mean, I think the man's a disgrace, in all honesty. And
Ronnie?
Who does he? This one here? Who
Oh,
does he
Jeremy.
think he is?
Okay.
Seriously, who does he think he is? I think he should be shipped off to Thailand and then over to the US, and they can do what they want with him. And if need be, we'll send in the SAS.
Okay, so
I think they're on holiday though until January, but when they get back, we'll send them in.
what I'm hearing from you, can I just
All
confirm?
over the top.
Forgive me, guys. Could I just confirm? You're here with the authority of your department.
Mm-hmm.
What you're saying is that you lack complete faith in the ambitions of what Jeremy has been trying to achieve. You have difficulties,
Absolute disgrace, Jonathan.
and there may be a kinetic solution if a harmonious solution can't be resolved today. Have I got that right?
We just want him gone. That's all I'm going to
So
say at this stage.
You're looking for Jeremy to move on.
He needs to go, he needs to leave. We don't want him in this country.
Marigold, what's your background in coming here today? What level are you within the FCA?
I am a very important person.
Would that be an assistant under secretary?
Absolutely, Jonathan. Nail on the head there.
Thank you. Would you like some time to read your?
No, I just, I think, okay, I'm very young. I am very young, and I've reached this position in my career at a very early stage. But I know what I'm doing. I'm very confident. I'm very competent, and I've got authority to be here. So I should be treated with as much respect as anybody else.
And
in fact, if not more important.
Your Secretary of State?
Yes.
Mr.
I'm a
Haig?
junior under the secretary.
No, but your Secretary of State, Mr. Haig,
Yes.
is with you on this process.
Yes.
You're here with his authority.
Absolutely. Yes.
Of another sensible Yorkshireman.
Yes.
All right. I guess
Do I
anything
have
else?
to do a Yorkshire accent? Or?
Would you like to try?
No, absolutely not.
Probably going to have Australian. So we'll hold it
Why
there.
I?
Ronnie, can I turn to you? Can I just establish within the Ministry of Justice your authority?
Principal of the department, here on the authority of the Minister, who, as you know, is the first Minister that is not legal background.
Consuelo, forgive me. A while ago you suggested a rule that only one person speaks at once, so that I could listen. Is that a rule you'd like to change?
I don't remember suggesting. It's a plot, a very thick plot.
What I'm hearing from you is that there's a lot to penetrate within this, but could you give me the honour of listening to one at once so I can understand what's being said, even if perhaps you don't have full sympathy with what you're hearing? Is that all right?
Is he a principal of his principals?
I can ask him. You're a principal of your principals?
I certainly have principles, and I have many decades.
And what would the Ministry of Justice like to achieve from today?
I agree with Marigold, he's got to go from the country. We want him out.
You're looking for Jeremy to move on?
Oh, he's got to be out of the UK.
What I'm hearing is a degree of consensus here. Jeremy would like to leave.
He's in.
Consuelo, you'd like him to come
He's
to
in the
Venezuela.
embassy. He's in a
He's
little bit of
demanding
Venezuela.
money. Who does he think he is? He's not going to
No
get
money.
all that money from us. He doesn't deserve any money. Absolutely not. He's been disgraced in this country.
What I'm hearing again is you're all looking for movement of different.
We're not giving him any
Aspects.
money though.
He's
Okay.
innocent
What people
He's
sometimes.
Victim.
entitled to any money. He's a
of his
pedophile.
thick plot.
I'm not a paedophile, that was stitched up.
Kipper.
Kipper.
I
Has it been proved otherwise?
can also say there are, and Venezuela may want to listen to this, there have been a number of misdemeanors taken place
Miss who?
within the
Bashir?
Venezuelan embassy. And I have the authority to say that we're prepared to waive those if you agree and comply.
I'm not understanding this, Mr.
This,
Would you speak?
You have 2,500 parking fines, and one of your undersecretaries.
Schmucking.
One of your undersecretaries is currently under suspicion of some very. I don't really want to talk about it.
Back up your
you
suspicions.
know all
It's
about
another
it.
counter-revolutionary
But
plot.
we're prepared to turn a blind eye to that, provided
You
you
are?
comply
Oh.
with our recommendations.
Oh.
well, ladies and gentlemen, what I'm hearing is that there's a considerable amount of background to this without which I'm yet familiar. People sometimes tell me that working in private sessions where I spend a little bit of time with one of you at a time,
Like a
or
siesta.
two, like a fiesta, indeed, a siesta. Well, not yet, but perhaps a little later on I'd like one. So if we could potentially work privately, would anyone like to have a private session with me, explain what they'd like to achieve? I've certainly got some questions for each
I
of
want
you.
to speak with
I think we
You
should
would
go
like to speak?
first, don't you?
You'd like to speak?
Yeah.
Jeremy?
I'd like to talk to you privately.
Where should we begin? I was sensing there was a little bit of dialogue potentially running between yourself and Consuelo over a number of matters. So, would
Should
you,
we go outside for a minute?
I think I should.
Mr. One,
Ronnie.
letter one. Me?
Ronnie Biggs and yourself would like to
Shall we?
leave? Jeremy, would you be content if I work then
Yes, of course.
with yourself or with,
I see.
or with Marigold? Who would like to begin?
I'll begin if you like.
Oh,
But I don't care
that's
if you want to
typical,
begin.
Isn't it? That's typical.
Well, Marigold, would you like to begin?
No,
You
I'd like to
begin.
go first, please.
Jeremy, it'll be about 5 minutes.
Let the lady.
Yeah, they're stitching me up again.
Marigold, thank you for working with me and thank you for coming today. What was it important to you that didn't come out in that opening session?
I think, let's be honest, these South American chaps are all a bit dodgy. And the only thing they really produce is footballers. No cricketers, nothing like that at all, no fit men. So I think he needs to be gone. But most importantly, I want to embarrass them. I really want to embarrass
Embarrass who?
everybody here.
Everyone,
Yeah.
including the Ministry of Justice.
Yeah, it's going to make me look really good. Yeah. So, I think, we can keep hold of him. What I'd like is to keep hold of him just a little bit longer, and then I think we ship him off.
In the mediation or generally in
Not
the embassy?
mediation, no, in the embassy. Keep him there for as long as we can to embarrass everybody, and then I'll come in with this agreement that we've reached, which would be to send him off.
Where had you in mind?
Well, I was thinking maybe Thailand and then the US. We've got to keep people happy. Maybe Canada. Canada would be good. We could send him off to Canada, and then the US can get their hands on him. You see, we've got to keep them happy. That's what I've got in my mind. So we need to keep them happy. If we send him off to Canada, they can get hold of him there, and they can do what they want. And I'm serious with the SAS. If we need to send them in to get rid of him, I know a few people that know a few people that know some other people.
What you're saying is you're connected
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
and that there are a number of options here. What would be the worst case option for me? Bearing in mind what you say to me is not getting outside this room and I won't take anything forward.
The worst case scenario for me would be for that man to stay on the streets. He can't be here.
Why would that be
Stay on the
bad?
streets. It just looks bad, it looks bad. He's just really, really not set himself in a good light at all. And I think we need to make an example of him. And we need to get rid of him. It doesn't look good keeping him here.
So you're looking to move the situation on.
Yeah.
You are of limited sympathy for Jeremy.
Absolutely.
You and your government don't see entirely eye to eye with the Venezuelan government.
No.
And the Ministry of Justice is almost as bad as the French.
Oh gosh, absolutely. Yeah.
Your trouble with the Ministry of Justice stem from.
Oh, what, sorry?
Your trouble with the Ministry of Justice stems from.
Just don't like him.
Professional rivalry.
Yes,
Is that what I'm
absolutely.
hearing?
Yes, that's it. Yes.
Thank you for answering those questions. I'd like to spend a bit of time digesting this and exploring some of the things that Jeremy wants to tell me.
But you're going to make, us
Would you
look
like-
good, aren't you?
I can't make anyone look good unless they are good. So you will
That's
be.
very important though. We can't have back
What does looking good look like?
We need to make these
So,
and we need to keep him with the US. You know, it's really important. We need to get him off to Canada, get him off to America.
so again,
Really important. We keep a good relationship.
real movement, relationships, and image
Yes.
are the sort of hits you're
And
seeking.
him gone out of the UK, definitely.
Leaving the UK.
Yeah.
Let me have a word with Jeremy. I won't repeat anything you've said at this
No,
stage. I'll just
no.
bear it in mind.
Yeah.
Is that all right?
But just remember, anybody.
If you see Mr. Strange out there, could you ask him to come in?
Yeah.
Calling Jeremy Strange.
Yes, I've got hold of it.
The wine's got hold of him, which is worrying. Jeremy, please come in. Thank you for holding on. I can't obviously repeat anything that was said to me in private session then, and nor will I repeat anything that you say, sir. What was important to you that didn't come out in that open session?
Well, the thing is, things aren't quite what they seem. I'm a bit stuffed, really.
Why are you stuffed, Jeremy?
Well, this paedophile thing, it just isn't true. I'm not a paedophile. But I've had a few close scrapes with other people over the years. And
Meaning,
I've got quite a few enemies. And I'd really like to try and get out of this whole situation if I can. I'd like to try and find some kind of safe passage to a neutral country. I'm not quite sure where, I'm not quite sure how it's going to be organised.
you're Canadian by background.
Yes.
Have you offended the Canadian government?
Yes.
You have.
Yeah. And they're in cahoots with the American government, so I'm not going to get anywhere there. I don't want to go back to Venezuela in particular.
Because?
Well, there's a cartel there, and they believe that...
Cartel, that's mobile phone...
No, unfortunately it's a drug smuggling cartel, and they know that there was a batch of WikiLeaks tapes which I've got, which I haven't released, that is conversations between the American Drug Enforcement Agency and this cartel. And if I set foot in Venezuela, I'll be shot the minute I get off the airplane. So and I'm also very suspicious that this lady here is part of the cartel. At least she's in communication with the cartel. So, you know, she's making noises here that she's protecting me, looking after my interests. She wants me to get to Venezuela so they can kill me when I arrive.
So you chose the Venezuelan embassy because...
Well, it seemed like a good idea at the time, but
what sort of A to Z you got to B before?
no, because they're famous for their anti-Americanism and their anti-Westernism. And I was in danger of being extradited to Thailand, which is just a front for the CIA to get me on the plane over to America. Well, I'll either spend my life in prison or I'll be executed. So I didn't have much choice. Venezuela seemed like a good idea, but the food's absolutely disgusting. I mean, they live on McDonald's and dodgy brandy, and the place is a bloody cesspit. There's cockroaches everywhere. My health is suffering, and yet the Brits have got the place surrounded. I can't go outside without, you know, I'll be arrested on the spot. So I need to negotiate some way out of this mess.
Who's the person most in the room who could perhaps unlock the door for you?
Well, they all don't trust her an inch. I guess the Ministry of Justice are less likely to be in cahoots with the Americans than the Foreign Office, Foreign Commonwealth Office. So I guess the Ministry of Justice, if they could get a blind eye turn so I can sneak out of...
Have you had any discussions with anyone?
No, I haven't.
So today would be a first?
Today's the first because the public position is that, you know, I'm keen to maintain my public position because my reputation depends on it. And it's a big business operation, you know, and there's a lot of money sloshing around here.
So I'm hearing that there's risk to you on 3 levels. Personally, from a physical point of view.
You bet, with these guys.
Secondly, reputationally.
Disaster.
And thirdly, from your whole personal existence. And
Well, exactly, I mean, I'm living in a cupboard. So I need to get out of there. I need to get out of there, but not to Venezuela, which is the public position they're taking. It's a mess. It's a mess. I don't want anything to do with the Foreign Office because they'll buy me on the first plane to Washington. I mean, I'm making a program for the BBC about extraordinary rendition. I'll be ironical if I was the first person to be extraordinarily rendited.
And you're a journalist. For business. And that would be a Canadian phrase. All right.
So
Is there any message you'd like to transmit at this stage?
can
We're
you
going to
try
listen.
and stitch me up a deal with the Ministry of Justice that somehow gets me out of this mess?
Well, why don't I have a word with Ronnie and see whether he's prepared to talk to you?
Which one's he?
Ronnie-
Ministry of Justice.
Ministry of Justice,
Yeah,
yes. He would be the only other
Okay,
man.
but don't tell this Venezuelans about their cartel, because I don't want them to know that I know.
Thank you. Everything you said to me so far is confidential, except the question of whether or not
They
Ronnie from the Ministry of Justice would like to meet
see
you.
me can find me a way out of this mess. And I'll do some deal with him that the next lot of WikiLeaks comes out, I'll keep the Ministry of Justice out of it. Whatever I find in the future. Because I got email, I got tapes, files coming in from all over the world.
Jeremy, let me have a word now with Consuela, and then I'll see Ronnie and see what
Be
we can.
careful. She's a
And
witch.
careful with everyone, Jeremy.
She's a cartelista.
If you see Consuela out the other side of the door on the other side,
Right, good luck.
thank you very much. So where am I going to go, guys?
Is it worth asking where he feels he would be safe, or where he wants to go?
What would be the risk of doing that? I'll speak for me. Let's have a look. Consuela, please forgive me.
I
Come
heard
to
you
us.
say you was in the bosom of Venezuela. And,
In the bosom of Venezuela.
yes.
What was important to you that didn't come out in the opening session?
Oh, my Lord of Lords, this man,
Which man is that?
strange. He's so strange.
In what way?
We have to get rid of him.
In what way?
Hideous, odious, revolting man.
So I said you're not comfortable with him in the embassy at the moment. Where and why do you want to get rid of him too?
Don't care.
Okay, you told me earlier that
My uncle would like to dispatch him in the usual way. My uncle grows produce in the mountains in Venezuela. We have a way of dealing with
Dispatch-
problems. We could dispatch him.
post him, fly him somewhere.
I think you have the message.
Okay. Have you discussed this with Jeremy at this stage?
God, no, you've seen him. Odious, hideous monster.
So you're looking for a solution whereby he leaves. Do you want him in Venezuela or not?
I don't care. My uncle, Hercule, can deal with
Hercule.
problems on the ground in Venezuela.
So far as you're concerned, him leaving the embassy, some form of safe conduct, is that what I understand?
And I don't want to ever have dinner with that man again.
Because?
His sex life is extraordinary. I'm told.
I'm told.
I'm told.
I
It's
see.
embarrassing. It's embarrassing. At first we think, yeah, this is great. We can embarrass the Klingons. Come, stay in the embassy. My God, mistake. We could get rid of it.
So the movement we discussed earlier is something that remains important. Is there a message you'd like to send to anyone at this stage, or is there anyone you particularly like to talk to about this in this confidential environment?
I need to talk to you, Jonathan. I need your help.
You need my help
Help
to achieve this movement.
to get rid of this man, this creature. He's disgusting.
So you're not particularly fussed about the solution as long as he's gone. What timescale are you talking about?
Now, tomorrow, tonight, before Christmas.
The near future is your ambition.
You could say, oh, so tedious, so strange. And he keeps wanting me for dinner.
He's hungry for your company.
I ate him.
So you have a number of reasons, one more than 68 for wanting him gone.
Exactly.
Thank you. In those circumstances, I will hold on to the thoughts you've given me without smiling too much. And if I might then invite you to give me some space for another 5 minutes, I have a word with Ronnie then, and I'll look at what congenial groups we can put together to build a solution for this. How would that be?
Don't forget my uncle Hercule.
Your uncle Hercule
He's in the mountains.
in the mountains. I'll hang on to that thought as well. Consuelo, if you'd like to give me a few minutes, and if you see
Don't
Ronnie,
forget the bosom of Venezuela. It's not welcoming to play. Neither will my uncle.
thank you. Is Ronnie there?
Ronnie's here.
Morning, please come welcome back. Thank you for giving that time. Obviously, what's been said to me in private to date is something that remains confidential.
So
What was important to you, sir, that didn't come out in the first session?
not a lot. We just want him out of the country.
We
and
being
the government.
the government.
And I don't know what's been said previously, but I have the authority to tell you that we can shift him to Canada. We have a military base in the middle of nowhere in Saskatchewan, where we can send him to sort of military prison for a while and then let him go under the witness protection program. We just really want him out of the jurisdiction.
So you'd like to use. Can I ask why you'd like to see him leave so much? It wasn't quite what I was hearing in the opening session.
He's an embarrassment to us, and it's just we just need to get him away from the UK.
How does the Foreign and Commonwealth Office feel about that? Is that a discussion you've had?
I've had a discussion outside with Marigold. She doesn't care as long as it goes. He gets out of the country. Where he goes is irrelevant. So I mean, the Ministry of Justice may have one view in terms of where he goes. The Foreign and Commonwealth may have another. But actually, we just want him out of the country.
You mentioned out of the country and privacy. Is confidentiality important to you at this stage?
Yes, it is.
And his fate, what are you hoping to achieve as far as the world outside is concerned?
As long as we get him out, we might up front will show that we've punished him as such by we put him in some sort of detention, but then after a while,
You hope that the matter
we'll dissipate.
will pass?
Yeah.
Sort of around just after the next election?
Possibly, although I couldn't comment on that.
All right. How quickly are you looking to move Jeremy out of the country if he's willing to go?
By the end of the month, if we can.
Have you, in any sense, got any feeling whether Jeremy would like to leave? It wasn't what we were hearing in open session, was it?
I think Jeremy is very worried about being sent to the US. We wouldn't want to do that. We've sort of discussed it with our US counterparts.
This sovereign base in Canada, that's UK soil, is it?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Within, so he'll be in the UK,
But not in the UK.
but not in the UK.
Exactly.
A sort of version of Guantanamo, which is
No, that's the wrong terminology to use, Jeremy.
a version of
It's a bit colder than Guantanamo.
a version of the Virgin Islands
Yeah, Virgin Islands.
without the sunshine.
Exactly, yeah.
All right. How would you like me to carry forward those thoughts to Jeremy, or to Marigold, or indeed to Consuela?
I think just to say that obviously he has concerns about where he might end up. This sort of defrays those concerns for him.
Would this be best come through me, or would you like to put that without prejudice directly to him?
I think you're a very eloquent man, Jonathan, and I think it would be very good if you could convey that to him, because you're extremely persuasive from what I've seen.
Can I therefore check precisely what it is you'd like to need to discuss? If there were an option, and if he was amenable to it, for him to go to part of the UK that's outside the UK quietly and in confidence, that's what I understand you to be offering.
And we would put him under the witness protection program, so he would be protected. But obviously that would have to be confidential.
And what about the Venezuelan approach? Who would need to square that circle?
I've already talked to Consuela, and she's very happy to be in agreement if we turn a blind eye to certain things that have happened with people within her embassy.
So you've had a discussion about collateral advantages.
Indeed, she's very concerned about us taking it further, and I've said that can all be brushed under the carpet. She would be very happy if it was brushed under the carpet.
Dealt with administratively.
Exactly, yes.
All right. Well, perhaps if I could ask you, because I would do it myself, and I'm rather penned in.
Yeah.
If you could ask Jeremy to come back in, we'll have a quick word.
Okay. Jeremy? Jeremy?
Now will be my chance, Helen. Jeremy, please, welcome back. Thank you for allowing me the time with the various other members. A couple of things have come across. Just to recap, so I've got this right, to make sure I have. You're keen to leave. You're keen to go somewhere which is safe, secure, private. If there were an offer on behalf of the government to take you to sovereign soil that was almost unknown outside government circles, to a sovereign base, to put you under the witness protection program and allow you to quietly move on without any publicity and appropriate undertakings on your part. Would that be something that attracted you?
It depends very much. I mean, what would happen to broadcasters beyond boundaries and WikiLeaks?
If you continue to run WikiLeaks and broadcasters beyond boundaries, how would the cartel continue to view your existence on the planet?
Well, the cartel is only specifically in Venezuela. I was thinking I might go to a nice neutral country like Switzerland or Sweden or Finland or somewhere that is completely neutral.
How
and then I could carry on.
how restricted is the range of a drugs cartel?
Well, not particularly restricted, but I don't.
And how delighted would they be to see you on the streets?
Well, what I had in mind was going somewhere quite secretly to start with, and then I could carry on running WikiLeaks and broadcasters beyond boundaries from my hideaway, but it would be in a reasonable place. I don't know what you have in mind by this sovereign state. Is it a Ascension Island or something? I mean, what have you got in mind?
I have nothing in mind. There is a proposal which the Ministry of Justice would like to ventilate with you
Okay,
to talk you through.
all right.
What I don't know is what their attitude would be to you continuing to run WikiLeaks or BBB.
Mm-hmm.
I can explore that. I can explore that directly with them. Or you might find it more convenient to do it with me in the room as a neutral buffer
Yeah.
and have that conversation.
Well, if that's what you recommend, I'm willing to give it a go. Yeah, I think I need to find out a bit more specifically, but I could go to this place and just lie low for a bit. And I mean, the whole point of WikiLeaks is that it's very underground, like anonymous. It operates in cyberspace, and I'm well known to be a cyberpunk.
You give me a range of possibilities
Yeah.
for your future. If you could only achieve one of those, what would it be in ascending order?
It would be to have safe passage to somewhere neutral. Switzerland comes to mind, where I could carry on underground, being a cyberpunk and running WikiLeaks. I'd have to give
That's
up.
a lot of ambitions being the one thing.
Well,
If it was just
safe passage out of this situation is the first thing. I've got to get out of the embassy. I'm going to go mad in that
the
place.
safe passage,
Yeah.
neutral state,
Neutral state. Well, I'm not going to get sent off to Washington.
neutral state, and then the ability to carry on.
Well, I think if I'm in a neutral state, that takes care of itself. Now, I'm willing to compromise on the money. I demanded 100,000, so I'm willing to compromise.
100,000 a year, I think you said
For
originally.
10 years. So I'm willing to compromise on that. But I think the main thing is to go somewhere safe, and then the rest of it will take care of itself, because I'm a cyberpunk.
Why don't we invite Ronnie back in and see what he has to say? How would that be?
Sure. Yeah, let's try it and see.
Ronnie Wood or
Hill.
Hill?
Hood.
Hood. Ronnie Hood.
Yes.
Ronnie, I invite you back. This
Yeah.
is not to put any pressure on you at all.
Okay.
I've discussed the matters that you invited to me to do with Jeremy.
Yes.
Jeremy had a couple of questions in that about the location, where he'd be relocated to a place of safety, where that might be, in your view. And secondly, whether he would be in some shape or form at the appropriate time, if I've got that right, be able to continue with his WikiLeaks and BBB. So would you like to explore where this sovereign state is? Because I didn't mention a specific location.
We're looking at Canada, and specifically Saskatchewan, but that would be a temporary location for a few months, and then
You mentioned that it was a sovereign base, which
Yes,
is part of
it
the
is.
United Kingdom
It is.
within
it
Saskatchewan.
is, yeah. And once all the hoo-ha about you had died down a little bit, we would be prepared to put you under the witness protection program beyond that.
Going to live.
Obviously, not places that you want to avoid.
Right.
So we would assist you in that regard, but that would have to be completely confidential.
Well, I wanted to be confidential, but also I want to carry on being Jeremy Strange.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm
okay.
a world-famous personality.
We just don't want you doing it in our domain.
Right. So why don't you send me or organise me to go somewhere safe? I mean, I mentioned Switzerland, but it doesn't have to be Switzerland. There's lots of other, places. Equatorial Guinea comes to mind.
I don't think you want to go there, Jeremy.
Well, I haven't got any enemies there.
No, but they're very strange people
Are they?
there, and they would
I thought it might be a nice little holiday.
They,
Waiting, you know.
they tend to lock people up in
Oh.
Equatorial Guinea.
Well, it's like,
For no reason at all.
sounds like Washington. Okay. Can you organise for me to get to Switzerland?
No, this is to Canada.
I know you said Canada, but I don't want to go to Canada and just be anonymous. I need to carry on my campaigning
You
crusade
need
work.
to be anonymous for a few months, and then we'll put you under the witness protection program and agree with you a country that you can go to beyond that. It has to be a staging process. Otherwise, because we have to keep our American colleagues on side.
Will the Americans know about this?
We,
Well, they will know about it. That's for sure.
they will, and
Of course they will. They will know officially. That's the way things work.
although they don't necessarily completely agree with it, they're content,
No.
as opposed to not content.
The alternative, I'd understood from discussions earlier in the open session, was that you might be sent to Venezuela. So
I'm not going there. I'd rather hang out in the embassy.
how much longer do you think the embassy will tolerate you for?
Well, it's rather backfired on them because now all the press is doing is concentrating on all the press abuses going on in Venezuela. So they don't want me there, but I'm not going back to Venezuela.
What I'm asking you, I suppose, Jeremy, you don't have to answer in front of Honor at all. What options have you got?
Well, I could go outside. I haven't got any options, is the reality of it.
We'll give you safe passage to Canada. You do need to stay within our protected environment for a period of time.
Could I carry on being Jeremy's trainer? Have I got access to...
Not in the initial period, but once we put you under the witness protection program, then you can.
And how long will that be?
6 months.
I'm afraid that's going to be a bit of a sticking point. I'd be very happy to go to your safe haven in Canada, but I need internet access. My whole life is totally revolves around the internet.
You could have internet access, but it would be monitored. It has to be, Jeremy.
It doesn't have to be.
Well, no, it does from our perspective, because obviously we don't want you doing something that upsets our American colleagues. It's very important. We've got to get through this period in
Yes.
order to satisfy, and then the heat will be off.
Yeah, but unfortunately, you're taking away my life support system. If I haven't got access to the internet.
And how long will your life support system work in Venezuela?
Oh, well, I'm not going to Venezuela. I'd run outside the embassy and be arrested by a special branch before going to Venezuela. Take my pop out.
And how does that option compare with the option
It's not so good. But this isn't much of an option you're giving me. I mean, can you get me on the...
Could I have a minute to talk to America?
Why did you do that? Why did I briefly, would you like to brief over Consuelo at this stage?
No. I'll go outside if you like.
No?
I don't trust that woman an inch.
I need to have a brief of words with her.
Right.
If one of the options and beauty of mediation is you don't have to come to a decision now, and I'm very happy to adjourn this until another day, and let you come up with if there's information you need to get from your principals to do that, and make that happen. How would that be?
Yeah, that's okay.
Would you be comfortable, Joe? I'm
Yeah.
sensing there's an initial reluctance to do a deal. There must be no pressure coming from anyone.
No.
It's not for me to advocate a deal, or to say that it's good or bad, or to take it forward. But if time clarification of some of the points perhaps that Jeremy is raising with you, clarification of some of the implications that have been given to you by Jeremy, by Consuelo, and your fears that you've privately expressed to me.
Okay.
Might that be a helpful thing to do? I mean, resume in 24 hours?
Okay. It might be. I know where the embassy bar is, and maybe we can have a private discussion away from prying ears.
Well, perhaps we can invite Consuela and Marigold back in from the F and CO and see where that takes us. Ladies and gentlemen, the mediation is adjourned. We can go to the bar. I'm very happy. We'd like to bring them in. Yeah, that's very kind. And I just thank our actors. That's a demonstration that not all mediation results in an immediate settlement. Not all mediation resolves matters that can get clarification. But firstly, could I thank John, Ian, Judith, and Kate for their acting abilities. And we've adjourned the mediation whilst you sort out your Uncle Hercule and take the hit off that's been ordered. Perhaps I should just explain to the other participants who don't know. Her uncle runs a mafia or something akin to it in Venezuela and was going to assassinate you.
I'm not surprised.
You're interested in your own career and basically selling you the ties. You're interested in doing the deal that you've discussed. You're absolutely panicking because you've got nowhere else to go. You're dead afraid of being assassinated. None of you wanted what you said in open session. Michael, how like a normal mediation, or Jonathan, how like a normal mediation is that?
Elements, yeah.
Elements of it are true, aren't they? And you tried to, what did you see in that mediation, ladies and gentlemen? What was different to an ordinary negotiation? How did it vary? How do two people normally talk to each other?
That's where degree of honesty, I suppose.
At some level, there became a degree of...
Transparency and candid discussion.
What does a mediator bring to this sort of form of discussion other than a sense of complete panic when he hears the various tales coming from around the table?
Neutrality.
Neutrality.
Sounding board.
Yeah, a sounding board, the ability to reflect back, allow people to look at their interests rather than their wants. What was I not asking? Why did I not ask? I'm really glad you put that interjection. Why did I not ask Jeremy in the first private session, where do you want to go?
Because it will add to his list of things that he wanted, and you perhaps then wouldn't stand down for it.
Yeah.
The one thing I never ask participants in a mediation is what they want. What I ask them is what they'd like to achieve, and then why. A great deal of why. So you don't want to go to Venezuela. Why? What's this all about? Why do you choose Venezuela? Well, because. And I let them build it. If they want to tell me what they want, like 100,000 a year, that's fine. I don't want to risk them losing face. I don't want to risk them having to back down or move in some shape or
But you
form.
don't judge those decisions or beliefs or interests or wants in any way, shape or form as mediator. So it doesn't matter why they're demanding what they demand. It matters not to the mediator at all.
I can certainly test the reality of the demands, to test the idea, what options. You don't have to tell me, I said to Ian here, and I should say none of these guys knew each other's stories or what was going to happen or anything. But I can certainly test it saying, you don't have to answer this, but what other options have you got? It's, well, none actually was the reality of that. And his interest was determined, perhaps, at least to a degree of honesty, by saying, well, if you put these into an order of priority, what would you achieve most? And personal safety was pretty much the high, although, of course, being Jeremy, he wants everything as his number one priority, because life revolves around Jeremy. Not like any real character in any shape or form, you might think. What else? What might you have done differently in my shoes, apart from jump out the window rapidly?
Well, I'm not sure when Judith or when Consuela suggested she might get a hit out on get her uncle in, what you would have done in reality at that point if someone's resorting to those sorts of.
Of course, I mean, one of the things you might do with more time is first to explain what that actually means and do that in reality test. And if someone is genuinely using a mediation or inviting me to convey a threat, that's one thing. If somebody's simply saying the reality is that he goes back to Venezuela, there are a lot of unhappy people there, and you'd like to, what I'm hearing is that you convey that Venezuela is not a safe haven for him, as you might imagine. When, of course, I already knew that he knew that Venezuela was bad. Now, if that was the first time that something had come, then there'd be a problem. But because he'd already told me, well, actually, it's the last place I should go because they've got a hit on me, it wasn't quite like that. There was a real example from Manchester of a Manchester mediator who took in a dispute over a building, took a threat from the builder, which is saying, if she doesn't give me what I want, I'm going to go down and demolish the back of her house, the conservatory being built, with a JCB this evening, lock, stock and barrel, doesn't matter who's in there. And she didn't give him what he wanted. The mediator refrained and said he's not happy, he's looking for a more concrete solution or something. The mediator comes back to the builder, who then said, well, actually a threat to kill her, said, look, we'll do what we do in Manchester, we'll inject her with HIV. If she doesn't give us what we want, tell her that. And the mediator again said he's not happy, and the mediation broke down. Now, what should have happened is she should have called the police. Because there is a threat to kill, the mediation's over. It doesn't matter about the neutrality or the confidentiality of those stages. Things have gone far too far with that level of genuine threat, which the mediator believed was a genuine threat to kill, that the builder wanted her to convey to the other room, whilst his the trainee solicitor representing him sat there fat, dumb and happy and scared stiff of her client. In a way we have sympathy.
As mediator, I'm afraid I'd be much more robust and say, so you want me to go into the room and say that you're threatening to kill her? Where does that leave me as mediator, really? And I would take that on. I would take that on very robustly and just say, let me understand that, because if that's what you want me to do, then that's totally unethical, totally outside of my remit as a creature of this contract, which is to facilitate negotiation, and I can't do that. The mediation's over.
it's a really difficult problem, that. And happily, Consuelo didn't take that quite so far. She took me into her bosom rather more rapidly. But apart from that, it was fine and it was safe. I'll see you later. On that one. Take that to one side. So there was this threat. What else was going on here? The naked ambition that was being shown by participants. You see that in other mediations, which the self-interest comes out extraordinarily highly, and the private motivation can differ very, very substantially from public perception. Some people are telling you things in private, which, if the other room knew or the other participants knew, meant that they would do something else. How do you feel as a mediator about that? You know something that they don't know, which, if they knew, they wouldn't agree to. Is that fair?
Same for both sides.
Same for everyone, isn't it? It's a facilitating. It's what they agreed to. And actually, you're not there as a Minister of Justice. Not there as a Ministry of Justice either. But not there as a Minister of Justice. You're not there to get everyone the best deal that can possibly be done. You're there to help a conversation. And actually, what happened best, I think, was when I shut up. And I think perhaps what I should do now is also shut up, invite you back to name to finish the drink. We can go on talking about the pros and cons of this process next door. But thank you to my actors and thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ian. Well done.
I wasn't sure if that was
Spanish,
French, or French, Spanish.
That's right. It's on camera over there, on video, and on here. So I don't know.
You better on this one because I got it.
Yeah.
Thank you, chaps. Have you seen that in action before?
No, I haven't. No.
So now you know what he does on there.
Yeah, no, really good. Really good.
Yeah, because there's what you're trying to do there.
Reshuffle pancake.
Exactly.
And the nice thing is, they all have their stories, which I was unaware of. They all eat those that phase of the relation. They all know each other, so they all know as partners. We trained here, and there's we own this building. We lease this building on perpetual sort of thing. So we use it for this